small peninsula located in the Persian Gulf, sandwiched between Iran and Saudi Arabia, so for that reason it's politically in a precarious position. In terms of the history of the industry of Qatar, Qatar was long a pearling economy. Pearl diving was the main industry, which was very harsh labour. The Qataris would rise early in the morning and dive all day for pearls to avoid the heat of the midday sun, and the tradition has it that they would only eat a few dates and a handful of rice. And this is important to understand the selection pressures that the population may have faced in the past, and especially to understand the kinds of medical issues that the population suffers from today, like diabetes and obesity. So diet and physical activity have markedly changed. First, a brief note on Qatar. Following World War I and the fall of the Ottoman Empire, Qatar was designated British protectorate. In 1968, Qatar attempted to form a federation of Arab Emirates in the Gulf, but Qatar's proposal of Doha as the capital was rejected, and Qatar reversed its interest in being part of a larger alliance. In 1971, Qatar became an independent state. By facilitating Al Thani's family's central position of power in the emirate, Britain was also helping to establish in Qatar a monarchical type of dynasty, of which there was probably no tradition in Qatar before a treaty between Muhammad bin Thani and the British Colonel Pelly in 1868. For this British deal, political authority was defined by family, property, religious grounds, that is via Islamic principles and local traditions. There's an emerging culture of modernity in Qatar, containing a tension between the past and the future, or what Frommers calls neo-traditionalism. There's also an emerging national identity, which is marked by National Day, which commemorates a historic battle with the Ottomans. Indeed, in 1892, 200 Ottoman soldiers arrived in Qatar to stake a claim to the territory. And after refusal by Sheikh Jazim, who was a Qatari sheikh leader, to meet with the Ottomans, the soldiers captured 13 other Qatari chiefs. Jazim responded and succeeded to unify and lead a group of Qataris to battle and defeat the Turks at the site of Wajda. It is this battle that is commemorated annually as National Day. But it's important to note that National Day only started to be celebrated in 2007. National Day, historian Frommers writes, has somewhat surpassed Independence Day in the size and importance of the celebrations, despite beginning only in 2007. It would appear as though an emerging National Day is displacing Independence Day with the effect of emphasizing national collectivity over tribal particularity in the political present. And this is the current emir. His name is Tamim. He took power from his father in a bloodless coup in 2013, and he also frequently appears in traditional dress. So this very fact speaks to the changing nature of tradition and modernity in Qatar today. What of the demography in Qatar? Qatar's population is 2.2 million, but the ethnic group breakdown is 40% Arab, 18% Indian, 18% Pakistani, 10% Iranian, and 14% other. In Qatar, males greatly outnumber females at a ratio of 3.4 to 1, although this varies greatly by age. So this population pyramid shows in blue men and in red women, and their varying abundance in thousands by age group. Since Qatar's population is heavily composed of migrant workers, non-citizens, the demographic structure is heavily composed of men in their 20s and 30s. Rapid growth in the second half of the 20th century has seen workers flock to Qatar to help build the country, and today Qataris are estimated to compose only 12% of the population. This necessarily raises the question of how a sense of national identity is produced, maintained, or publicly performed in a country in which the citizens are a tiny minority. Historian Frommers writes that while the Al Thani family uses historical myth and tradition to maintain their rule, tribal affiliation and solidarity is slowly being replaced by national solidarity. Qatar is therefore in a process of transforming from a tribal segmentary state towards a unitary state with power centralized. For my project, the question arises as to how this context of nation and state building and demographic precarity relate to biomedical developments. I visited Doha for a 2-day conference in December 2015. During the conference, I met with the head of the Qatar Biobank and expressed my interest in studying the biobank, and so I arranged a research visit. What is the Qatar Biobank? The Qatar Biobank is a collection of samples and information on the health and lifestyle of members of the population of Qatar. It was created by Qatar Foundation in collaboration with Hamad Medical Corporation and the Supreme Council of Health, with the broad goal of furthering medical research on Qatari health issues. Its pilot phase began in 2013, and since 2014 it is in the biobank initiation phase. It is located at the Hamad Medical Corporation, which has been the principal public healthcare provider in the state of Qatar for over 3 decades. Hamad manages 8 hospitals, incorporating 5 specialist hospitals and 3 community hospitals. To register online for an appointment with the biobank requires a Qatari identification card number. The process takes around 3 hours and involves donation of samples of urine, saliva and blood, and undergoing a series of measurements like height, weight, grip strength, blood pressure, body composition, heart and lung function, and participants complete a very long medical questionnaire. The biobank currently has 1,200 samples and celebrated its 2-year anniversary in February 2016. The ultimate goal of the biobank is 60,000 participants. The facilities of the biobank are really very impressive. There's a hospitality lounge where visitors are greeted and wait. There's also designated blood labs, molecular biology labs, in-house genomic sequencing suite. There's also an MRI suite where all participants get a brain, abdomen and heart MRI, which would cost thousands and thousands of dollars. All the medical results from this process are returned later to the participants in one installment, but not genomic information. Genomic information is sent to labs in Sidra Medical Research Centre and across Qatar that compose the Qatar Genome Project. When I visited the biobank, I interviewed its scientific and education manager and had a tour of the facilities. I was interested in finding out specifically about the barriers to growing the biobank, what are the difficulties that they may or may not be facing, and I was told that IT infrastructure was actually one of the most difficult things of integrating all of the information that they're cataloguing, but also the building trust with the community, that with changing traditional values and the role of women to be allowed to circulate independently in the society, this was a major issue to building trust in the society and to getting people to participate. Another way in which the biobank has attempted to overcome this trust building is to fold the biobank and its enrollment process into National Day celebrations. So during the National Day celebrations last year, there was a specific event organized. At the National Day celebrations, experts from the Qatar Biomedical Research Institute hosted a DNA extraction workshop for students who were taught to undertake a basic DNA test with saliva samples. These activities were also relating health to lifestyle, but also connecting health and lifestyle to national heritage. So for adults, there are various health activities, including weight and fat measurement, to help them identify risk factors. But there was also a horse simulator to teach children and adults how to ride horses in a relaxed environment. Horse grooming lessons and healthcare tips were given together outside the tent in an interactive and educational setting. This showed visitors how to explore the world of horses, which was explained to be deep-rooted in Arab and Qatari heritage. So here we see the entanglement of the biobanking project, National Day, the emerging culture of nationalism, and the encouragement of healthy lifestyle practices. And what are the specific health needs of the Qatari population? So from a recent pilot study, the Qatar Biobank reported that 17% of the adult population suffers from type 2 diabetes. This is quite high, and to put this in comparative perspective, in Israel, the incidence is 21% amongst Arabs and 12% amongst Jews. So this is still significantly higher than at least for Jews in Israel. The surveys also found that there's 80% of the sample population reported no level of moderate physical activity per week. And 70% of the patients that were ultimately referred following this assessment were unaware that they had a disease. Other findings from the pilot study were that 73% of the sample population were classified as overweight and obese. 37% of the population had borderline high levels of cholesterol. 76% of the males and 70% of the females were at risk of developing cardiovascular disease, and there was also a high risk of hypertension. One of the questions that I was interested in finding out was how the demography of Qatar plays out in the biobank and in the accumulation of this medical information of the population. So there are a total 3,000 participants in the biobank so far, and as you can see, there's a roughly equal distribution between male and female participants. But if you then look at the citizenship or the ethnic background of the participants, 2,360 are Qatari participants, of which there's also a relative parity between males and females. So since its inception and they started enrolling participants, you can see that the light blue line representing Qatari citizens is the highest ethnic group by far, with Arabs trailing very far behind, with other closely behind that. And in terms of the gender breakdown, this is also a population pyramid, but it represents the samples in the biobank. As you can see, it's far more symmetrical than the population pyramid for the population of the territory. You see a rough parity between males and females at almost all ages. And indeed, compared to the population of the territory, which is very asymmetric and represents a very different population. So there are major health concerns, but the biobank also enforces a sense of national collectivity. The question arises as to whether the biobank is indeed producing this emerging culture of nationalism, or indeed reinforcing it, or if they are in fact in a continuous dialectical relationship. And does this, so this assembles a symbolic order where the Qatari citizens are given dominance and are represented. But the question is, does it also contribute to a sense of biological peoplehood? So the Qatar Genome Project, which is part of the biobank's activities, emphasizes both the special features of the Qatari population as well as the commonalities that Qataris share with the greater Arab people. The Qatari population is both unique and similar to the Arab population. It claims both a particularity and a dimension of universality. One of the grand challenges of the project is to determine the genetic structure of the population, incorporating disease prevalence or predisposition and accurate phenotyping of the population. The strategic plan document sends a mixed message about the genetic nature of the Qatari population. It says that Qatar has probably the most diverse patient population in the world, even while it is supposed to be unique due to its history of endogamy. Regardless of this ambiguity as to whether the population is unique or similar to the greater Arab people, many Qataris share common ancestry and have large families. This makes it very easy to identify the molecular basis of genetic disorders that present as fetal abnormalities. So in the case of Qatar, the state does not appear to be directing or appropriating an explicit genetic narrative about the origins of the Qatari population. However, this could emerge later on through the Qatar Genome Project. Rather, in Sidra and the Qatar Biobank, we see tension between the specific medical needs of a population that have resulted from rapid modernization and urbanization, specifically diabetes and obesity. But this is in tension with the general desire of the state to be at the highest level of development in terms of personalized medicine. The unique features of the Arab population are also alluded to, while likewise emphasizing the mixed origins of the Qatari population. However, Qatar seeks to develop industrially by importing global talent, raising the question as to whether these developments are indeed nation building or merely state building without a particular national character. In any event, specific development goals of Qatar have been entangled with emerging national medical problems. As Qatar has moved from pearls to oil, its population has experienced a rise in diabetes and obesity as a consequence of a change in lifestyle. But a particular vision of population is also produced through the Qatar Biobank, which has assembled samples in an order that recreates a normal demographic distribution, that is by foregrounding the roles of Qatari men and women with a relative balance in the demographic makeup of the biobank. The biobank therefore achieves several things. It creates a material resource of biological samples that can be recruited to draw human capital to Qatar in the form of scientists, clinicians, nurses and healthcare professionals, which thereby connect Qatar with the global infrastructure. It will give Qatari citizens a chance to perform their nationality by giving blood, a potent symbol of life, solidarity and relatedness. And it allows the imagination of a national population which complements the emerging culture of Qatari nationalism. So it may not be state building by a narrative of genetic peoplehood, but state building through biomedical development, and this is what is understood by the term Qatarization. This raises the question as to what future is pursued through these biomedical developments. This is Sidra Medical Research Centre. It's a member of the Qatar Foundation for Education, Science and Community Development. It's a state-of-the-art academic and medical centre in Doha. It costs $8 billion, which makes it the largest ever funded single biomedical research development project. It is not yet finished yet, but when it is, it will focus on world-class health for women and children, medical education and biomedical research. The 5-year plan of Sidra states that Qatarization remains Sidra's ultimate goal in capacity building. Consequently, the development of Sidra will yield a vibrant international academic community that will draw top scholars, independent of their origin, to create and sustain a global community of leaders in the biomedical field. So I'll briefly conclude with a summary of the biopolitical issues at stake at the Qatar Biobank. So to recap, the Qatar Biobank was initially funded by the Qatar Foundation, which is directly funded by the Emir. So in a certain sense it's discontinuous, but it's essentially driven by the centralized state. The sense of people hub that's produced through the Qatar Biobank they're not describing a genetic cohort that has distinct properties, but rather they're arguing that Qatar has probably the most diverse patient population in the world because of its diverse origins. They currently have 3,022 participants enrolled. It's not representative of the total population of the territory of Qatar. Its current use is emerging, but is imagined to improve the health of the Qatari population. They are collecting genomic data from all of the samples, and they aim to reach 60,000 participants. The social contract at stake is described as a scientific and altruistic partnership between the research community of Qatar and the people of Qatar. It's not described as a relationship between Qataris and the state. It's about a scientific partnership between the community and the people. The moral representation, or the use that the biobank is supposed to provide for the state, is Qatarization. So it's imagined as driving state building and inskillment of the local workforce. And it's regulated by the Supreme Council of Health, which is also an organ of the centralized state. So just to conclude finally, the Qatar Biobank preferentially selects Qatari citizens. Qatar Biobank gives the Qatari citizens representational dominance. The Qatar Biobank and the Genome Project enforce the emerging culture of nationalism by fostering an imagination of Qataris as a genetic cohort. Qatar Biobank is part of a state-led effort to improve the lifestyle and health of the population of Qatar. Qatar Biobank is a crucial part of the development of precision medicine industry in Qatar. And Qatar Biobank is a way of building high-tech capacity in Qatar and drawing professional talent from abroad. Thank you.